Well, welcome back, or welcome. I'm not sure if you're returning. I'm not sure if this is your first one that you've listened to or whatnot, but really doesn't matter. I'm just glad you're here, listening to me ramble. Now, I'm still obviously on the topic of showing yourself grace, and obviously the things that I've talked about on the other two episodes, this one and the next ones, can go towards other people, showing other people grace. But for me, I just want to focus on you, or how help maybe help you focus on you. Um, and I'm also working again on doing these things for myself, because regardless of how much work you put into yourself, in healing, or your self-love journey, your self-worth journey, your healing journey, etc., we slip, we get complacent where we're at, we fall behind, all those types of things. So even me, not that I'm that far ahead or special, but I find that I have to go back to some basics here and there, to get ahead again. It's kind of like in my martial arts training. Yes, I've got black belts. Yes, I've got high ranking belts. Yes, in jiu-jitsu, I'm a purple belt with, I don't know, two stripes, I think. Two? I'm sitting here staring over to the left like there's somebody here who can confirm how many stripes I have on my purple belt. But regardless, point is even in the martial arts, even in the styles where I've got a black belt, I have to go back and work on some of the basics. So what makes me think that when it comes to showing myself grace, just because I did it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, or if you've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, what makes us think that we don't have to go back to some of the basics, refresh our memory, and start doing those things again? I don't know, some of y'all may be perfect at this. That's awesome. If I miss something, find me on social media, say, hey Eddie, you missed this, or hey, that was wrong. Because I'm just going based off of the things that I've done, the things I've read, the things that I've been told while I was in therapy, the things my life coach tells me. Yes, I know, I am working on becoming a personal coach myself, and I have a coach. But the one thing I always say is coaches need coaches too. When I taught the martial arts, whether it was Shotokan karate, whether it was some taekwondo, whether it's jiu-jitsu, I have to have a coach because I need to be able to grow. I need somebody who's a bit ahead of me or very far ahead of me to help bring me forward while I'm working with my peers and I'm trying to help pull other people forward. So, that little ramble, all to say, my next topic on showing yourself some grace is to celebrate yourself. Now, I'm not necessarily talking, go buy cake and, party hardy or anything like that, but just celebrating yourself, being happy, being excited for what you've done, what you've gone through, what you just did. You know, we seriously put so much time and energy and attention to where we failed in a situation or in life. And yes, I'm guilty of that too. I mean, think about it. I'm 44 years old, not married, been married twice, divorced twice. I've messed my older two kids up a bit. I mean, don't all parents kind of mess their kids up? I had a jiu-jitsu school and a strength and conditioning gym that, I don't want to say it failed, but I had to close the doors. Yes, there were extenuating circumstances, the COVID lockdowns, all that stuff. You can't practice jiu-jitsu while social distancing. But my point is, I could focus on all those negative things as a failure. Oh, God, Eddie, nobody's going to want to date you. Nobody will ever want to marry you. You're divorced twice. They didn't want you. Who's going to want me? I mean, and I can pull myself down, have that pity party, and just sit in a pit of despair, curl up into a ball, hide in the corner, things like that. And have I done things like that? Yes, of course. We all get down, we all get sad. But, however, there are times where I have been, plenty of times where I've been able to pull myself out, to look at the negative situations in my life and find those victories, find those wins, and start to celebrate those, So I find the little successes here and there. Sometimes I'll write them down in a journal. Sometimes I'll give myself a little voice memo. And then what I also will do is go to my phone and set a reminder. I'm like, oh, well, this little thing's happened a bunch. So I'll set a reminder, and it'll say things like, remember to find your successes today. Remember to not let your emotions control your reactions, things like that. So throughout the day, my phone's buzzing, and I look, and it's one of my reminders. But all that to, really today, I want to focus on like one, maybe two things, depending on, how quickly I can talk about this one. But the first one I definitely want to touch on is celebrating yourself. So again, we devote all this time, energy, and attention on our failures instead of our successes, And I repeated this because you are not alone in doing this. Even if it's just me that does it. If it's you and me and nobody else in the world does it, you and I are not alone. You and I have each other here. So, But think about it, Just real quick, look back. How many times was there a negative and you focused on that failure and how you felt and everything like that and how it brought you down? Now, if you could in this moment, try to look back at that time again and find any tiny little semblance of a success. Now kind of start to celebrate that with yourself right now, We do tend as people to kind of, hyper focus or laser focus on our disappointments, versus our victories. So it's not a horrible thing. I'm not saying you're a horrible person, that you're pathetic or anything for doing this. It's human nature almost, and what I'm hoping to do is to kind of start breaking that human nature and get some of us and y'all to change that up. Start focusing on the triumphs, the victories, the successes, the wins, And I'm no expert, I'm no doctor, I'm no shrink. I'm just a guy who has thoughts and rambles into a microphone. And then I post it thinking I'm cool. I'm making a podcast. I'm making change. I don't know if I am. If I am, great. If I'm not, okay. I'm having fun doing this. So, But, maybe, again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I'm not a shrink. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. But, maybe this is because, I don't know. Maybe this is because we were never taught to regularly celebrate ourselves. A lot of people, oh, you're conceited, oh, you're arrogant, oh, all this negative stuff for us saying, look at what I did a good job. Now, obviously, there's boundaries, you don't want to become arrogant. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, obviously, but that's not what this is about. This is about getting you to focus on the successes and the triumphs, taking note and celebrating it. So whatever the reason is, we don't take enough time to celebrate ourselves. And kind of like I pointed out, if you're like me, anything like me, when you do finally decide to start celebrating yourself here and there, you might feel guilty. You might feel like you're being arrogant or conceited, and that's okay. Or, just work through that. I'm working on it myself. Okay? And so I'm just going to encourage you to do the same thing. Start celebrating yourself. Even if it's as simple as, okay, so for me, when I do start to, I kind of, do cheesy things. Like I'll thump myself on the chest. I'll pat myself on the back. I'll do a happy dance. I'll buy myself Reese's peanut butter cups. And I don't just go with the 2-pack, y'all. I get the big old 5 or 6-pack, whatever I can find. And I celebrate. Just depending on the size of, in my opinion, the size of that victory, the size of that win, the size of that triumph. So, and yeah, I might even go post it on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, or I'll come on here maybe and talk about it, but I put it out there as a pat on my own back. And the cool thing about social media for me is it's a photo album. A year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm going to see that memory. And if I'm down and out, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that was the day I started my podcast. Man, look at me, that was fun. So, and start to re-enjoy those moments. Celebrating yourself can have a lot of positive effects, to be honest. It reminds you to enjoy the journey. It could even, I don't know, boost or amplify your self-confidence going into the next day, going into the next task, going into the next venture, you know? But it's hopefully going to increase your feelings of joy and satisfaction in life, or in that day at least, you know? And at the same time, when I'm doing it for myself, it kind of reduces my need for outside approval. And don't worry, guys, I thoroughly enjoy it when I do get a quote unquote approval or recognition from people outside. You want to see how ridiculous I can get when somebody else is celebrating something with me, or I get a victory because, say, somebody buys one of my books? Go look at my ridiculous TikToks, and you will see several where people are like, "Hey, I bought your book." Man, I get so full of joy. And yeah, I run to my phone, I grab it, and I record, and I make a fool of myself. But if I'm down and out, I can always go back to that video. I can watch it and be like, "Oh God, I look so ridiculous." But then I start getting that happy feel again, and I'm like, you know what? I should be happy about that. I should be happy about the fact that I wrote it, and then I published it, and then I marketed it, and then people bought it. So it's that repetitive nature of celebrating yourself that can bring you some joy in just an unfair life. And the more we can fill ourselves with joy, I think, just the happier, or the more happy moments we can have, the more joyful moments we can have. And it kind of starts to flush out some of the bad, or maybe supersede some of the bad and negative things happening in our life. But it changes our focus from all the stinking negative going on in our life, and just brings more light, I guess, is the point of that rant. So, start celebrating yourself more. Start acknowledging to yourself when you've done a good job. It's going to help you out. And it has me in a lot of areas, and I got to get back to doing it more. The other thing, don't get caught up in achieving things, okay? But just find the successes in what you're doing normally. If you just start focusing on, "Oh, I've got to write a book, I've got to make a podcast, Eddie said I've got to do this." No. I'm not saying go do more and do that. Obviously, if you want to, go do it. But recognize, even in your failures, there are successes, and celebrate those successes. Celebrate your actions, even when the results are unfavorable. Like I mentioned earlier, I had a strength and conditioning gym, and it was also a jiu-jitsu school. I was teaching kids classes. I had, my jiu-jitsu professor came in and started teaching adult classes. It was growing. And then the COVID-19 stuff happened. We had a lockdown. I couldn't afford to run the business with memberships going down, and putting on pause. I couldn't grow more memberships. I was working my job. I just couldn't afford the balance. I had to make the decision to shut the business down. It was a very hard thing for me to do. A lot of, "Oh, Eddie, you failed. You're a loser. Oh, you can't do this right, and this is your dream." But I can look back now, and I can see, holy cow, in my first year of business, I was about to break a profit. Holy cow, the number of people I helped, the number of women that joined the adult jiu-jitsu classes that had horrible things done to them in the past, but they were building their self-confidence up because of my jiu-jitsu coach and me working with them. Those are the victories that I found. Those are the triumphs that I found. Plus, I wasn't scared. Okay. I was scared to start my own business, period, end of discussion. But I didn't let that fear stop me. I conquered that fear, and I did it. So why not celebrate that? If that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me in my head. That's why it's coming out of my mouth. So, like I said, don't get caught up in achieving things. Celebrate your actions even when the result is unfavorable, and do more of what you love, and find joy with the best moments of your day. if all that makes sense, which I hope it does, you know. I saw this quote once. It says, to not celebrate is to not enjoy the journey. And yeah, life's not fair. Life is a journey. There's going to be shitty, sucky moments. But to enjoy it overall, just start to celebrate the little things. Write them down. That way on the days you can't find the little things, you can go back to maybe yesterday or the day before or a week or a month or whatever. You can find those areas and re-celebrate those things, like little anniversary, you know? I mean, that's just things that I've done in the past, and I, through doing these podcast episodes, realized I need to get back to that stuff because I was a happier person. I was a more joyful person in doing those things, you know? And so that's kind of my celebrate yourself pep talk and cheerleading moment that I hope you guys got something out of, you know. It's just my little way of saying, you know, hey, you know, this is just what I've done. Maybe this will help you get out of a little bit of a dark moment, you know. And the other thing I'm going to touch base real quick on, in my opinion, let go of the negative stuff as best you can, you know. To give yourself grace is to give permission to forgive your mistakes, your lapses in judgment, hurtful behavior. And we all hear it. I'm not perfect. I'm just a man. I'm not perfect. I'm just a woman. Nobody's perfect. We get it. We get it. But at the same time, to give yourself grace is to give yourself permission to forgive, you know, is to give permission to forgive your mistakes, lapses in judgments, and hurtful behavior, because we're not perfect. We all have that one thing, or in my case, multiple things we believe would have turned around differently if we had chosen, you know, a different path or different words or, you know, different actions, reactions to things, you know. But in my opinion, it's important to just stand in the decisions you made without the hindsight, and to be confident in the reasons you made those decisions at that time. And like I said, as you know, you guys, that one will probably make a lot more sense, you know, as you guys get to know me. If you purchased either one of my books, you know, FML or Would You Marry You, or you listen to more of this podcast, or you've joined me on live on TikTok, I talk about the mistakes that I've made in the past, especially in FML. I talk a lot about my reactions to things based off of my interpretation of the situation or the words said to me in that moment. It assisted in causing 2 divorces, 2 custody battles, and just a lot of stress and things like that. And I could go back and always focus on those things, or I can start letting go. A lot of people be like, oh, just let go. That'd be nice. So I'm still working on letting go of things. You know, I've got people in my life that are like, just let it go. And each time I loosen that grip a little more and a little more. But admittedly, sometimes I'll let it go and then I'm like, whoop, I dropped that. Pick it back up. So, and that's like a whole other series of podcasts that I'm still trying to work out for myself on how to fully, properly let go. But think about it. You start letting go. Guess what you get to go do? You get to celebrate the fact that you let go of that stuff. You know? Again, that one's easier said than done, and I am not qualified, nor am I prepared to try and tell you guys full on how to let go, because I'm still picking my trash up from years ago, and then I have to put it down, and then I pick it up, and then a friend slaps me on the wrist, and I put that down. Okay, I'm gonna let it go this time. But hey, the cool thing is every time I put it back down, I get to celebrate again. And it just boosts me up and gets me more joyful and happier and things like that. And that all comes out in everything I do. You know, I have people, they listen to my first podcast that I did with a friend. They're like, oh my God, Eddie, you sound so down and depressed and because I was. But this one's different. This one's me. This one is, you know, years later, a lot of therapy later, a lot of life coaching later, a lot of self-reflection later, and a lot of celebrating myself later. And I just realized how much I'd said later, so I hope that wasn't annoying for you guys. But yes, I still have my bad moments. I still go backwards sometimes. I'll sit down and the negative will catch up with me again. And all of that because I am human. And it's going to happen because, life's not fair. If you're sitting on your butt too long, it all catches up to you again. So just keep letting go. Celebrate when you let it go. If you pick it back up, if you have that lapse in judgment and you pick it back up, you know what? Just put it back down. Celebrate the fact that you recognized it and ride that wave of joy to the next thing. Like I said, I hope through this whole podcast you guys will see I am nothing special. I'm just a guy sitting in front of a computer with a mic stuffed in his face talking. But I hope with what I have to say and what I do say, it helps a little bit in your journey. So celebrate yourself. Let go and celebrate. Celebrate and let go. And just repeat that process over and over and over again. Granted, it's going to make you tired. It's going to make you tired, but that's okay. We'll probably one day talk about allowing yourself to rest. I don't know. You know what? Maybe that'll be the next episode. But for now, that's this little portion. Celebrate yourself and let go. Maybe I'll call it let go and celebrate yourself. I don't know yet. I'll figure that out here in a minute. But I hope y'all have an amazing day, night, morning, weekend, weekday, whenever you're listening to this. I hope in this moment you just have an amazing one. Okay? Much love, y'all. And on that note, that's a wrap. Thank you guys for, tuning in. If you enjoyed this and you want to continue to support the page, please click follow or subscribe or whatever the platform you're listening on says. Feel free to share this to other people that might find it entertaining or, heck, educational, I dare say. But, if you also want to continue to find other ways to support me and the podcast, you can head on over to my Beacons link. That's beacons.ai/Eddie Bowers. I also have a Patreon page. If you go over to patreon.com, just type in chat with me, and that'll take you to the page. There are a few different membership programs there. Do not feel obligated. Of course, I'd appreciate it. But you can just follow it there as well and see some updates. I do things that are just to the public, as well as some special things for members there. Every little bit counts. Every little bit helps. But the biggest thing is just you guys listening and finding me on social media and interacting with me. So again, I appreciate each and every one of you. Much love and have an amazing morning, afternoon, day, evening, whatever time it is that you are listening to this. I appreciate you. Have an amazing day. And remember, you're worth it.